This is Coaching the Coach, where we break down what it takes to thrive at the highest level, featuring Ceice, a Fortnite pro who's been dominating since the game's competitive roots, from high-pressure tournaments to daily grind routines. This episode dives into the habits that keeps players sharp, physically strong, mentally focused, and built for longevity. Because greatness isn't luck, it's discipline. Ceice, welcome. You are not officially the first guest, but you are the first episode of Coaching the Coach. We launched this in 2021 and then it was with Reason, but I never really pushed it. Now it's the time and I really wanted you to be my first guest.
I'm excited.
Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm a long-time Fortnite professional. I'm also the owner of 414, which is a hyper peripheral gaming company. And I do some coaching on the side, but mostly competing, creating content, doing the typical pro things, but happy to be here.
Thank you, thank you. Well, we're going to start with the questioning round. For more than 7 years right now, you've been at the top of Fortnite competitive. You had some crazy performances like your third place World Club. But what was the moment that you knew exactly that you would make from your profession your career? At which spot would that be?
Back in, I don't even know how to describe it. Long story short, back in the OG days, there was a Discord server that was only made by Epic employees, and it was to test the replays, like the replays that we know today. It was to test the replays, create them. I think we were just the rats in their little race trying to help them get data. But they hosted a tournament, and it was to test the replays, but also to qualify into Summer Skirmish, which at the time was only an invite tournament. I don't think there was anything before that to qualify. I'm like 99% sure there was nothing else to get in. It was only invite for creators. You had Courage and Dr. Lupo and all those people in it. And for the pro community, it was huge. So I played in the qualify games or qualifiers, and it was one spot in. So you had to win the tournament. While I'm playing the tournament, it doesn't look like we're going to do too hot. I think it was like a 4 or 5 game format. We're like 3 games in. I don't think we have any points on the board because back then, if you remember, the scoring system was pretty weird. Like it was like if you won a game or you won 2 games, especially, like you pretty much won the tournament just because it was like 10 points for a win. So placement was kind of rough. So yeah, we weren't doing too good by game 3. And then we ended up coming out and winning the last 2 games and qualifying into Summer Skirmish. Skip forward a week and I made my first earnings or my first big chunk of earnings, which is like 17,000 by getting like 8th place in the duo Summer Skirmish event that week, which then got me invited to Fall Skirmish and so on. So that definitely jumpstarted my career. And that's also when I knew that I had it. Because again, it wasn't like I got 5th place and qualified to Summer Skirmish. It was like I won. And I won in fashion where like, yes, I didn't have the best start, but I won 2 back-to-back pro games with a lot on the line. The best players at the time. Oh, it's very huge. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, we beat out a lot of really, really good teams in that. And yeah, like I said, that definitely kickstarted it.
Well, like you already said, by now you played even more tournaments. You had many more highlights. Also your WSOE title very early on, but I also know and seen you play many FNCS finals. Now, besides your 3rd place at World Cup, what is the moment in your career that will always stick with you? And why is that?
That's a tough one. There's a lot. I think something that comes to mind is when I started to play with Cold in Elite. And the moment that sticks in my mind so clearly is not how we performed in finals, although it was crazy.
He won. Let's go!
But it was like when we first started playing, like the moment of like, I was in the dumps. I didn't really have the best team options at all. I think I made the last grand finals before that, but it wasn't with like a really flashy team. And I took a bit of a risk. And of course, taking a risk on a player that has never performed in a finals, never been in a finals, doesn't really have much placements behind his name. There's a lot of players that fit that role today. And for any professional to take that risk on an underrated player, it's scary because if it goes wrong, then you might potentially the thought of being in like the dumps forever at that point or dropping down your like level of play, to not be at the pro standard is scary.
Yeah.
So that sticks clearly in my mind. Dropping down, taking the risk, playing with him, and then the feeling of, and my memory might be a little bit wrong, but it felt like our first scrim game, we just dropped in. I didn't know how it was going to go. I was like, you know what? I can't possibly get judged. These guys have way less experience, way less time played. So I didn't feel like I could be judged, which was great. I also knew just off those first few scrim games about just how crazy they were. I felt like every time I would play the game, we'd get stuck in a fight, or we would be in the end game and they'd get a kill, or another one. And it just felt so simple. And it literally felt like the first scrim game that we played was the exact same way, or very similar to how we played in grand finals. Like it was just like the same experience. Like just tarp through, get through the zone, they get the kills, works every time. Like rarely did it ever mess up, or at least in my mind. I'm sure it did a lot, but like yeah, like that was definitely something that sticks out of my mind.
Well, we all know Cold. That's why the Peterbot effect now with Cold. I get it. From guitar hero to millionaire in gaming. But gaming really changed your life. We know that. But what are the specific ups, but also the down? Definitely the downs, because we all have those.
Yeah.
Is there certain things that you want to share? Because what helps for the next generation, the future, you know?
I think for me, what has really helped me through my ups and downs, one, my family. I think that like keeping me like humble and keeping me focused has been really great. And they've been supportive through my entire career, which is awesome. And then I think also my like attention to detail, which does then translate into like how focused I am on making sure that I write down every like piece of my feelings, thoughts, and like history. So for example, like the smallest one would be play grand finals, write down my thoughts and feelings, how I felt before the day, how I felt after the day. And when I'm feeling down, it's like I can read those notes and like first off prove that I did this in grand finals. Like I made it to the grand finals, or I placed this in the grand finals. And if I'm feeling even more down or worse, just looking back at the history and be like, this is what, like, it's not a fluke. It doesn't, like, just because I'm having one bad tournament doesn't mean it's the end of the world. I think those things help keep me level-headed, keep me focused, and keep me moving.
And everything you touched was always good. That's at least how I remember you. Even to the point where I'm touching your 4114 mousepad. I love it. And I remember it, all the sweat and tears you placed into this.
Oh my gosh.
So
yes.
my kids are young. And what would you give, for example, them as an advice when it comes to gaming? Now you're older. You're kind of the unk of the gaming scene. Sorry that I say that. I'm even way older. But is there something, if you could go back to tell little, you're pretty big, but young Ceice to not make the same mistake again, what would that be? So give a big advice to the newcomers, and then what's a typical mistake that you would prevent yourself from happening when you were young?
For advice, I would say find what you're passionate about and be genuine with yourself. Like there's no one's gonna care about what you're passionate about. Some people are passionate about eating hot dogs. That's fine. Whatever you're passionate about, find it and go towards that, because at the end of the day, I feel like passion drives the most. And as soon as I lose passion for something, everything else falls out the window. It doesn't matter if I'm the best basketball player and I'm feeling like I'm on a heater and I'm playing crazy. If I lose my passion to play basketball, it's over. Like it's over before it begun. The second part of that, and something that I've tried to do like religiously through my career, is to only think and speak of like the positive sides. Like I'll say it here, but I know that this is just for the conversation. But I'll never tell myself like it's over, or I'm quitting, or I think it's done, or I should give up, or I'm not good enough, or any of that. Like I'll never ever tell myself that. Never have. And it's always about just thinking about keeping your mind on positive things and things that actually will bring you up. Because if you think about purple llamas, then you'll only see purple llamas. So, and then what was the second part of the question?
So if you could go back to young Ceice to not make a mistake that you maybe made in your life.
The obvious one would probably be like, I wish I took advantage of content when I was like at the height of my career, because that's always good. But I feel like what I would tell my younger self would honestly be to try and mold yourself to changes better. The adoption of Kovacs was in the years of my career. Like it was at the very start. Like I think it definitely came out before then and people were playing it. But when I first heard of it, it was in like 2018. And like, if you can imagine, if I just did it for just a week, 1 week, every month, 1 day, every month for that amount of time, Like that's a lot of improvement. And yes, I have been aim training in Fortnite by, obviously playing the game a ton. And I think my aim is at a great point, but like there's levels to it. And I can't get the time back that I've missed where I could have been aim training or mechanics training. And same thing with that, like edit on release. I'm just now switching to it like 5 years after it came out, or I don't know the exact time. But it's like that, being able to adopt a new change and like looking at it in a positive way rather than trying to be like, I don't want to change because I think that it isn't worth it. Trying to at least just being open-minded to it, I think is the biggest advice that I'd give myself, is just like,
Yeah.
it's okay. Like you don't have to just aim train by playing the game. You can aim train on Kovacs. You don't have to just have your normal edit speed. You can actually try something different to try to improve your game. Side note, I think that's why a lot of really like up and coming players are doing so well, is they're just put on the right thing. Same with creative. I really like shunned away creative because for years it was just like battle royale, solos, solo squads. Like playground was a thing for a bit, and that was great. But like when they started doing creative and box fights and like all these other things, I shunned it away. I just didn't feel like it was something that made any sense. I thought the game was just, let's see how smart we can be, how methodical we can be. And for the first years, it was 100% like that.
Yeah.
But now, yeah, it's switched, and I think my like shuttered brain, my blocked eyes, just kind of hindered me a bit.
I think many people have that, by the way. An example that I'm going to give you is Fredoxy. Fredoxy in EU is known as the best off-spawn player. But
Yep.
what many people don't know is, one, the amount of time that Fredoxy spends on his off-spawns, but also that he does wagers. So zero build token. He specifically does zero build tokens for his off-spawn. So he don't rely on the builds, but he does them at his POI just to perfect everything without the builds, to go as fast as possible, to use all the angles, and his full focus on those things, on the angles, on the aim, on the positioning and everything. And that's where many people, they still think, oh, we don't need zero builds. But yeah, think outside of the
I can
box.
see the value. I feel like that's a very good point. And I didn't see the game. I didn't see what you just mentioned as like that being a positive. I definitely think that is. I'm most definitely going to be doing that myself. But I feel like it's things like that where it's hard. Maybe it's harder for me to try to think outside the box. Maybe I need to push myself to think outside the box. Maybe that's some other advice I'd give, because I'm not saying Fredoxy came after Zero Build got introduced, but I'm sure that would be a more common thought for someone who like started when Zero Build came out. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm wrong with that. Maybe that's just my thought process, and maybe it's wrong. But I feel like, yeah, if you come before something new comes that maybe actually be helpful, it's harder to think outside the box because you just think, well, X has been working for so long, so why would Z come in
Indeed.
and work better?
When we talk about improvements, as a mentor from you, I've helped you to strengthen your mindset. But what are the maybe two most important insights or special techniques, maybe wax on, wax off, that I taught you, and that are you still doing them? That is another question.
I mean, depends on how, I guess, the audience or who may be listening. But maybe this sounds like a noob thing, which I just never heard until you brought it up to me, but I still do it, and I still think of you when I do it. But box breathing and just breathing techniques, I try my best to do that every time, in the game, out the game, whenever I'm like stressed or like need like to clear my brain. I feel like that helps a ton. I don't say I'll do it daily, but I don't think I'm stressed daily. But yeah, anytime I'm in a tournament or a high pressure situation, 100%, I'm focusing on my breathing. I think that's helped a ton. I've also, me taking a deeper understanding. Well, actually, you taught me this, but like me continuously taking a deeper understanding into how my teammates react, how they respond, and like almost studying my teammates a bit to make sure that like I'm doing the things that push them in the right way. Like I think an easy example is if someone's, if he's a really hyped teammate, like he gets going, he plays better when he gets hyped. You hype him up, someone like that, and like being able to read my teammates, like looking at them like, okay, like this guy, like doesn't really matter if I hype him up, he's gonna play the exact same. Okay, so then I'll do this for him. Or if this guy like needs to be hyped up, then I'll hype him up and make him play better. So things like that, like studying my teammate, I think is something you taught me a ton about, especially with Day and Tragics, just digging deep into them. And you did a lot of that, and then you would tell me, but like processing that and like, okay, yeah, like this is very smart to be able to understand how your teammates react to certain things, even just talking to them, the tone you have, things like that. Because some people, everyone reacts differently. So
maybe you still remember the moment. I use this quite often, Day as an example, where the brain doesn't know the difference between do or don't, where don't go left, eh? And he goes left. You still remember, go right. Yeah, every person is different.
Every person is so different.
Since we are more on the mental part, what's your opinion about the most important mental skill a Fortnite player would need to succeed or go to the next level?
Most important mental skill that you would need. I feel like mental skill, maybe this doesn't classify in it. I would say vibes. I feel like there's a lot of players, probably a high percentage of people that play with each other, not because they're good, because there's a lot of players who are very good, but because they have good vibes. And I do feel like in my career that's hindered me a little bit, just because I don't know, that's just the way I've been wired, just to have different vibes. I think I'm also really monotone, which is kind of how I'm speaking now. But some people, like Kanata is a good example. Like he just, like, you play with him, you know what you're getting into. It's going to be like loud, cheery, playful, fun. And I don't know what the other polar opposite would be, maybe me, but yeah, like I think vibes, like if you have good vibes and you give off good energy, people are going to want to come play with you. I think that also goes with like being able to communicate. And I think that's difficult for a lot of people, but I've seen it a ton in my career, where like some of the best like talkers, the sweet talkers, you know what I'm saying, Poppy? Some of the sweetest talkers will get the best teammates, or will be the most successful. So being able to talk to your teammates the right way, talk about your teammates to other people in the right way, or talk about other people in the right way, whether that's like a positive or a negative thing. It's at the end of the day, it's communication that's very important. And like if you can have some really good communication, you can definitely be successful.
I heard it last week with Veno and Clicks again, where Clicks brought it up like, hey, I'm a vibes player, I really need this. I see this now in the team as well, where their vibes are just really strong and really good, and that made him harder with Veno. For Veno, it's like he's here to win, he's focused, and he is different, everybody is different. So 100% what you say, 100%. Now, you already said it, you're known for your strategic approach. You haven't always been an IGL, but now you are definitely the IGL. How do you prepare yourself mentally, like before an event? I know what I told you in the past. What are your rituals now, or techniques that you have? Keep yourself sharp.
In about 20 minutes here, my caffeine alarm's gonna hit. I've had that going since we set it up, which I don't know the timestamp for that, but it's been years. And so that definitely keeps me focused and prepared. I think obviously it's a caffeine alarm and there's times to be lenient with it. So I feel like I am very lenient with it, but like for the first few years, maybe 2 years, I was like, this is like, I'm cutting it off at 5 p.m. But if it's like 5:30, maybe I've gotten a little lenient to it. I just think I know my body a bit more. So that's been very helpful. Just the thought process of like, this is like, you just can't do this. And I feel like their 2019 version of me would be like, yeah, Red Bull at like 10 p.m. like sounds like a good drink. So that has been very good for me. I think another thing that I think about a lot, which I think is extremely difficult, but I think just the thought of thinking about it is enough, is I think if you actually do it, which I think it can be difficult. I don't know, maybe I'm putting up on a blinder, but I think writing out your schedule of what you're doing every day is like extremely revealing. I think like after this, I don't know exactly what I'll be doing, probably some scrims, but like then, after scrims, what am I doing after that? It's like writing out your day, realizing your dead time, because I will 100% say now, I'll probably watch some random YouTube video, or I'll probably scroll on TikTok for 20 minutes for no reason. And like writing that out, understanding like, okay, like today, like I didn't do any of that. That was great. Like how do I feel? Right. And chances are you'll feel pretty good. So writing out your schedule, I think, has been something that, or like the thought of understanding like, okay, like I need to be conscious of what I'm actually doing in a day's time. For me has been really helpful.
And on Grand's Day specifically, do you have like a specific routine the morning of Grand's Day, or even the night before?
Yeah, night before, I'm not going to eat anything crazy. Never. And that kind of heats and Grands. I need a big tournament where I want to do well. And then I always try to get some good sleep. I think that's an obvious one. But I think for me, there's going to always be some type of nerves and butterflies, whether it's like right before the event or the night before. And I think I try to gauge how I'm feeling days before my big event. Let's say it's Grand Finals, like the week, Monday before Grand Finals starts, think about like, okay, tomorrow is Grands. Put that thought in my brain, because typically if you think about something that you're nervous about, even if it's in a week, like you're going to feel nervous, right? And I've always told myself that nerves and like an uneasiness is due to lack of preparation, because when I felt most prepared and when I felt the least nervous, it's been because I've been most prepared. I always try to process like, okay, I'm playing Grands tomorrow. How do I feel? It's like, I don't feel too good. This is not the feeling I want to go into Grand. So then I wake up the next day, or I start to study and I start to try to process things in different ways and talk to my teammates until that feeling kind of dumbs down a little bit. Again, hopefully the best case scenario is you go into the grand finals and you feel great.